Today what we're going to talk about is bridging the gap with templating between WordPress and Joomla. And by the way, I could have also put and grab in this with Gantry 5, but you know, that was a long enough title. So, and that was a great suggestion, WP. But what if, like, you know, some people may not know what WP is. I don't know. Maybe they would, because as she was saying, like, everybody knows WordPress, right? Whoops. Let's go back. I'll do a little bit about me in case you have never seen me talk at one of these events or don't know who I am. My name is Robbie Adair, and I have a company in Houston, Texas, which is the middle one there, Media A-Team. We've been in business for a little over 16 years now, and we do all types of media, so not just websites, as we were just discussing. We do video editing, we do some animation, we do some different things. But I have worked with, when we started working 16 years ago building websites, we were doing Flash. Oh, I so miss Flash. It was lovely. Action scripting and video. It was so much fun. But anyway, you know, times change. Flash gets killed. And so we moved on and we found some CMSs. We worked with Mambo. And then, just like Rowan said, the split happened. We watched both new versions of both of those, compared the specs, and we realized, yeah, we're going the Joomla route because more of the developers went that way. And so that was what we did. So we've been on Joomla since the very beginning. And I've spoken at a lot of, I do a lot of speaking gigs. I've spoken at a lot of JoomlaDays, Jugs, those are Joomla user groups, world conferences, and then PHP events, trying to like spread the Joomla word to other things, some small business events, things like that, and talking about Joomla, just trying to get the word out about it. And then I also am one of the coordinators of the Jug in Houston, and then I also am one of the organizers for JoomlaDay Texas, which, by the way, I'll get a plug in now, September 28th this year in Austin. So if you enjoy this day, come on out. It'll be fun. Austin is fun. So it's only a one-day event, but that way you can just go get your knowledge on, and then you can go to 6th Street. It'll be great.
Real reason you go to
Exactly. Although, I don't know, you know, yeah, you probably should do it afterwards. Although it may make you forget half of what you learned that day. I don't know. And then a few years ago, I bought Fabric, the copyright to Fabric. Fabric is still open source, just like Joomla is. And it is an application builder that you can install into your Joomla websites. And so you can build whatever you want, basically. And if you're more interested about that, then please come to my session tomorrow. I'm doing a workshop on Fabric, and we'll actually build an application in it. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And, of course, we've got to give our shout out to the gold sponsors because, believe me, because I organize one of these, the only way you do it is with those sponsors' money. And so we do appreciate those sponsors because that's the only thing that keeps open source alive, actually, are the sponsors. Whoops. Man, I've got a heavy finger on this little thing. Let's go back one, maybe. There we go. So what we're going to talk about in here, I always like to tell people what we're going to do so you know what to expect. And so now if you didn't want to do this, you can get up and walk out if you want. It doesn't matter. No. So we're going to talk about the Gantry 5 framework. And first of all, I'm going to tell you what it is in case you don't know what it is. And then we're going to talk about how it can be installed. Now we have a really short session, so I'm not going to be showing you installation. I'm going to be telling you installation, which I like to show, but you know sometimes you're limited by the time. I'm going to talk about how you customize because if you have not worked with the Gantry theme, the customization is amazing what you can do with it. And then I'm going to talk about what my title is, which is how do we match that across the platforms, right? And then if we have time, we'll do questions, and hopefully we will. So what is Gantry? Gantry, so I'm going to back up just a little bit. When we first started working in Joomla, you had templates, right? But you wrote a template specifically and you installed it, or then the template clubs all appeared and you bought a template and you installed it, but they were all one-ups, meaning there was not a consistent CSS framework there to it. There was not a consistent layout framework to it. So then we started seeing some frameworks appear. Gantry, T3 might be one you've heard of. Oh, I should have looked at the other names. I don't use the others that much. I work on them as clients come in, they have them and they need work on them, but I almost primarily work with Gantry when I'm doing new websites. And so Gantry, though, is one of those products. Now, they had a bigger reason. Rocket Theme is one of the template clubs, and they do templates for Joomla, and then they started doing templates for WordPress. And now they even do it for Grav, which is a flat CMS that Andy Miller, who owns Rocket Theme, wrote. And it's, if you need just a flat file database website to spin up real quick, Grav's fantastic. The cool thing is, well, they said, hey, wait a minute. Wow, we're building these templates, and I built it here for Joomla, but now I'm going to rebuild it all for WordPress. There's got to be a better way, right? And so the framework was developed, because then there's this framework that works across all three of those platforms, and then your interface is on top of it. And that interface they do have to design, obviously, for each of the CMSs, but the framework is the same framework through those. So it makes it very easy for you to do matching look and feels throughout those. So let's talk about how do you install Gantry. And when I say Gantry, remember it's the framework. So Gantry is the framework, and then you can have different templates on top of Gantry, right? So it's actually two pieces. You're installing a framework and you're installing a template. Basically, you're installing a template, but without that framework plugin, it's not going to work, right? So if I were doing a brand new website, there's two different ways I could do this. One, I could install whatever CMS I've chosen. I'm going to start with Joomla because we're at JoomlaDay, right? So that's going to be my example. We're going to start Joomla and then we're going to spread to others. So at Joomla, I would install my Joomla. I would install the Gantry plugin. And then I would install whichever template I wanted that uses Gantry. And you can even, by the way, write your own that uses Gantry. The second way with a brand new website, if I wanted to, is they offer something called Rocket Launch. Rocket Theme, Rocket Launch. And what a Rocket Launch is they've already put it all together for you. They've put Joomla, they've put the Gantry plugin, and they've put whichever theme you pick the Rocket Launch of. And so then you just literally unzip that package, you make a database on your server, and then you run the setup. And boom, 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 you've got a website set up. CMS, the theme, and the plugin are all in there. So that's a new site. But now you've got an existing site. And we have this all the time. Clients come to us, they're ready for a refresh on their website. So what we're going to do is we're actually taking an existing website and we're putting a new look and feel on it, right? Then in that case, what we have to do is we have to install Gantry, right? And then we have to install whichever theme, I said theme first there on that one, that's WordPress really, but whichever template or theme that we're going to be using, right? And then, obviously, assign it. Used to, by the way, Gantry, whenever you would install their templates, you would auto-assign. It was quite startling because you would just you would install it and then all of a sudden the homepage of your website was changed to the Rocket Launch or the Welcome to Gantry, and you're like, whoa, what just happened to my website? They did change that because it was startling. So you do have to assign the theme now or the template to select it. So where do you get Gantry? So two different things here, right? Because Gantry is open source, actually. The framework is open source. And there are two open source templates as well, Helium and Hydrogen. Those are all downloadable on gantry.org, free of charge. If you want a pre-designed template already, those are designed, but if you're like, well, I need something different, then you can go to Rocket Theme, and Rocket Theme is a theme club, but they sell only Gantry themes, and they sell them for Joomla, and they sell them for WordPress, and you can get matching ones. As a matter of fact, I saw this morning on Twitter, they had, I think, Vermilion, they've also redone now in WordPress as well, so it's cross-platform. And then also Grav is now added on there as well. So, now, what I do want to point out is that the Gantry plugin, it is available if you're in Joomla and you go to install from web, it's in the store. So, and it has updates. So the updates happen automatically for you. It signals you that there's an update needed. And the same thing with WordPress. It's in the WordPress marketplace. Is that what they call it? WordPress marketplace? The widget library, I don't know, whatever it's called, is also available in there, and so you can install from web inside of WordPress and inside of Joomla. Grav doesn't have that kind. Okay, so this is a screenshot here of the layout in Joomla. This is the back end of the template, right? So this is where I go and I can customize my Gantry template. This is it in Joomla up here. This is it in WordPress. They're almost identical. I mean, almost. You still have your WordPress bar on the left, right? But it's almost identical. So the cool thing here is there's not a new learning curve between these two. I can work in a WordPress theme, or I can work in Joomla templates, and I'm going to get the same look and feel. So it makes it very easy for me. They have layouts, which is really awesome, particularly when you talk about in the WordPress world. layouts are really amazing. I mean, we have layouts with some other engines in Joomla already, but the layouts, having it in WordPress makes it so much more powerful. It makes it so much easier for you to match the look and feel between two websites. By the way, I didn't talk about that necessarily, and that is, why would we even want to do this? Like a lot of times we'll have a client, they have a corporate website, right? And it's in Joomla because it needs to do some other things, and it's, you know, they need ACL, they need whatever. And so they have a Joomla website. But then the CEO decides, because he went to this, you know, marketing seminar that said that every CEO should have a blog. So the CEO comes and says, I need a blog on the website. And you're like, we probably don't want the CEO logging into our Joomla website, probably, because, you know, he might break things. It can happen. Even though we could set him up with a blog inside of there. The other thing we can do is we can spin up a WordPress site that's his blog, match the look and feel, seamlessly looking between those two, right? And so then you've got the same look, it feels like the same exact site, but he has his own independent blog that he can run. And you actually get some SEO benefit out of that too, because you've got your linking between the two sites. You've got the backlinks happening, right? So you get some benefit there as well out of it. So you've got the separation to keep somebody out of it, and then you've also got the backlinks for your SEO. So there are reasons for this. I'm not just like coming up with something to do a session. There are reasons why you do this. Did you have a question? Okay. And then the other thing that's really cool inside of Gantry is that you have overrides. So what that means is, let's say for instance on the home page, I want my homepage to look a lot different. Like I've got these blocks, things that are going to be everywhere, right? Little modules here stuck around, or widgets, whichever I'm in. And I don't want just an article page or something like that. I want it to be a little different. And I have a cool slideshow that's going to be up at the top. That's not going to be on every other page. I want my logo big and center here, but once I go into interior pages, I want it small and over to the left. This is done with overrides inside of Gantry. So I have my one template that has a base outline. So here's my core way I want everything to lay out. But then I can make an override, and I can say, on this override, inherit the footer, because it's the same on this one, but everything else I'm going to do different on it. But I still have that core base outline that I can work from, and then I can override on certain pages. Or let's say, for instance, we had a client, and they were a school, but then they decided, a school for autistic children, and then they decided they were going to do this daycare separate. It's still part of their business, but it's a little different, and so they wanted it to look different. So we were able to just brand one part of their website a different way with an override on there. So we still were able to utilize the things that we needed from the core site, but then we were able to do something different on those pages with an override. And by the way, there are preset color schemes inside of all of these themes and templates, and so that way maybe you like a layout, and you're like, well, this is a beautiful layout, and that's going to work for my client. I'm going to make little tweaks, and it's going to work. But their color scheme is red, and this is in greens. But there's normally, with every Gantry theme, they have at least 6 different color schemes that are preset. You just click on it, it changes everything for you, right? But you can also individually customize and change each one of those in this layout area. So it's super handy, and I am going to pull this up and show you guys customization in there. We're going to look at the back end of it. I also like to point out, because I feel like Gantry, and I use a lot of products, I guess, that have learning curves with them. And I find most powerful products, there is a learning curve, right? It does so much. You have to get the terminology down. You have to see how it's really structured and functioning. And so Gantry does have a bit of a learning curve at first, Gantry 5. More than Gantry 4 was not. It was more like all the other themes, just like tabs of settings. Gantry 5 is different. It's more robust. And so I do like to tell you their documentation is really good, though. And so they have nice documentation online. And the guys are very helpful too, and so you can send to their support tickets and stuff, and they'll answer, even if you're just using the free. By the way, I always maintain a Rocket Theme membership, a developer membership, because even though I don't really use the Rocket themes anymore, we use the Gantry, and then we use Helium or Hydrogen, one of the base templates, because we're customizing everything anyway. And so I don't usually use the Rocket themes because a lot of them have got a whole lot going on in them that I don't need. And so I don't use those anymore. But I still pay because I would feel really guilty just always going and using their free product and not paying them some money. And Andy's a great guy, and so is his team. They're really good guys. So how could I match between these? So I've got my Joomla website, and then that CEO shows up with his management training and knows what he needs now, and I'm like, oh, okay. So then you go, all right, I'm going to now spin up a WordPress site. I'm going to install Gantry, or maybe I did a rocket launch because I used helium over here. I'm going to rocket launch with helium or hydrogen again. Then I look, I can either one, just pull up the back end like you saw there, the two back ends, I'll go back to them, these. I can pull these up, right, and go with my settings little by little and just do it manually. And quite honestly, if you haven't done a ton of customizations, that's probably going to be fast. But let's say you've done a lot, like, I mean, you went crazy in that CSS. And by the way, the other thing I like to point out is that they use Sass as well. And I don't know if you've used Sass, but you know Sass, there's less in Sass, and they're like CSS on steroids, basically. They're a programming version of CSS, though, so that you can use variables in there. So I can assign in Sass a variable that says, you know, media 18 green, media 18 light green, and then I can just set the color numbers. Now all throughout my CSS or my Sass, I just say, make this area media 18 green and make this area media 18 light, and I've used that all throughout. But then I come back and I go, oh, it'd be really better if that were a little bit lighter. I only have to go back to my variable and rename it. So they use Sass in there. Andy actually developed, the reason Sass wasn't used very much was because it did not have a server-based renderer. You have to have renderers for these, right? So you process these after you've got them so that they generate the CSS file. And he wrote one so that it works on the server. So now you can use Sass in there, generates your CSS for you, okay? So if you've done a lot of those things, then you might want this second option, which is going to be where you're actually going to be moving some files. You do have to be savvy enough. Of course, if you're writing Sass files and CSS files, I figured you're savvy enough to use FTP. You know where those files and folders are held in there, or if you don't, refer back to the documentation. The documentation on moving is there too, by the way, moving between the two. But you're basically going to grab the config folder out of the template, and you're going to take those files and move them over to your new site. There are some little things. Let me show you. Here we go. So this on the left is my Joomla website, and you can see inside of templates, so we all know this, right? Templates, and then there's my helium template, and then there is a custom folder. I'm sorry, custom folder. And then over here, same thing. All right. This is my WordPress one. Now they are slightly different. We're going to pull these up in a second. They are slightly different between the two, and you'll see that I did put a little note on here that there are some things that do not work between the two. There are some inside of Gantry. You have particles and atoms. It's their terminology, but basically they're inside of the template itself. There are some widgets, okay, like copyright widget, date time widget, a logo widget, branding widget. There's all these different widgets. Not all of them there, and then there's been some that were written that you can download separately, and that's where you may get, like if you get them just the core ones, they work on both platforms. But if you've gotten one that somebody else wrote and downloaded it for Joomla, it may not be in WordPress or vice versa. Okay, so there are some exceptions. It's not 100% boom. So, so let's take a look at this. I've got it set up on my local machine, so we're going to hope that everything is running right on my MAMP, and then we'll come back to this. So, here's my WordPress site. And if we look inside of, let me make this larger for you so you can actually see it. There we go. You guys can kind of read that. It's high res, but I want to point out, one, if you were going to be in, by the way, who in here uses WordPress? Oh, you just learned it. Okay, so there's just a couple of you that know it. So inside of WordPress, normally, if I were going to deal with my theme, I would go to Appearance and Themes. Right? And you can install themes here. You can search and find them, and you can install them. And here's where I can say, I want to set this as my theme. Now, if I was going to go through here to customize it, there are some customizations. This is the way you normally would customize inside of a theme, right? So there would be things in here that I could go through and I could change. And you could still do those kind of customizations on it, but where you're going to do the most heavy lifting now is you'll see that it has actually put a new menu item down there inside of WordPress. And so that's where we can get to our actual interface with Gantry so that we can customize this theme. Same thing on my Joomla side. Now it's more, oops, let me close this. Let me log back in. Okay, so if I go here now, this, hopefully now everybody is back to where they're like, oh, I'm comfortable now. So here's my themes, and you can see I've installed Helium. Now, by the way, this was a rocket launch of Helium, so it also has a lot of overrides in there. This is a great way to learn, in my opinion, because you can look at these overrides and see what did they do? I mean, what's going on here? Because you can see they've assigned them to pages, so then you can actually really go in here and look. And so I can have a full width theme, or I can have 2 columns, or I can have a column on either side and the center, or I could do my main content in 2 columns. I can do different ways I want different pages to lay out, okay? They're still all building upon the base, though. So if I go in here and I look at my default, wow, it made my screen super tiny. If I go and look at my default, you can see how these look almost identical, right? I mean, it is identical overall. And this is where I was telling you about there are some preset color schemes in here. So if we look at the front end of these, by the way, here's the front end of my WordPress. You can tell because there's a little WordPress bar up there, right? The WordPress edit bar. And here's the front end of my Joomla site. They look identical, don't they? I mean, they really look identical. They've done a great job with this, actually. And so I can make these, and even if we go dig in, let's go look at the blog page on this one, and then let's go look at the blog page on this one. Oh, well, hang on. Did my server crash? No. But yeah, it's my, oh gosh, I didn't update this one. I used the rocket launch, and it did have a WordPress update. I don't know that I'm online. Okay, I'll take care of that in just a minute. Let's just look at the color scheme differences, and then I'll come back and I'll update that so that we can see other pages if we have time. Okay, so let's just look at this, and let's say we installed this, and we're like, yeah, but our color scheme is red. That's very red. So now my WordPress side has the red, and it does adjust, like I said, it does adjust everything. Links get changed, you know, overlays get changed. See, these tabs have now changed. Everything has changed throughout, right? Hey, there's Andy. If I go look at this one, I still haven't done it, right? So now this is where I was talking about manually changing between the two, right? I mean, if that was all I did, well, this is real easy. I would just come over into this one, and I would mark this as my new preset color scheme, and then I would refresh it. Whoop. Did I not save that? Save styles. Okay. We should have it now. Okay. What is going on here? We shouldn't have to recompile our CSS. You see that there is a recompile CSS in here. We should not have to do it for this, but we will if we don't get it. I was going to say, I might have to clear the cache. I shouldn't have to do that on my local machine like this, but, you know, maybe so. We'll give her a go. Come on. I don't know why this is being so slow. I upgraded my MAMP yesterday to the new version, and it does not seem to be working very nicely for me. Go down here and make sure that I am working with my default, yeah. Let me just make sure that I had not, oh, okay. Now, this is good. See, this is why it's good to do, why it's good to do live. So you see me working and you're like, yeah, we all make mistakes. Okay, so I'm gonna back up just a second on Gantry and this works on both sides. Gantry, remember I said earlier, one of the beauties of Gantry is that it has a base outline, right? Which are like global configuration. So I was changing a page that we weren't looking at. That's why we weren't seeing my change. So if I go back up here and I go to base outline, the base outline is where you normally would want to start. And by the way, yeah, see, I was on my base outline over here. I was not on my base outline over here, so we'll do this and we will save that. And now we should have the right color here. Hopefully. I'll just assume it's going to work. I don't know why this is functioning so slowly. There we go. Ta-da! Yeah, see, when you get it right, it works. So the cool thing about that is, though, if I wanted to take on one of these overrides, so like let's say, for instance, I want on, let's save this. Let's say I want on one of these other pages, not my default page. Hang on. Let's say on the home page, I'm just going to discard that. On this home page, I want to do something different. I actually want this home page. I could actually go change it on just this one page if I wanted to. Oh my goodness gracious. I am on home, right? No, I'm back on default. There we go. Okay. So I'm on the home page, I'm gonna go to this red, green. Local server here, that's my local server here, that's my problem I've got going on. And then on the inside pages, they're all going to be the red. I'm just going to show you this on the Joomla one since my WordPress one's not going those. So there's my home page, right? But then once I go inside of one of these pages, I've gone back to the red scheme. Okay. So I'm going to now go back here to what I'm doing here whenever I look at one of my different overrides. If I don't make any changes, so see I'm on home, and you see how these are grayed out here and there? The green checkbox means on this particular override, use this setting instead of whatever came from the default. Okay, so like in this instance, the base text color on here is this dark gray, but if I go look at my base outline, it's black actually almost there. Wanted to, make them what you need to. Now, let's talk about also the layouts here between the two. We have till, is it 11 is when we have till in here? Okay, good. Okay, perfect. Good, we've got time. So those were styled from base configuration for your template, and then each override can have its own individual, or it can pull from the base. Layouts work exactly the same way. So I would go back to my base outline to look at the layout. Now, this was, quite honestly, when we first started looking at Gantry 5, we were like, wow, this is a whole lot. This is a whole lot. Once you get this, you're just like, oh my gosh, how did I ever do it the other way, where I was going in and editing code to move or add positions and stuff like that. Because now, if I want to come in here, I've got those social icons up there, you see in the upper right. But let's say I have some other stuff that I want to put on this, and so I can actually just add a whole new row. I can say, well, I want those social icons to be here and have branding up there. I'm really proud of this website. I'm going to stick that way up there. I really probably would not do this, but you'll see what I mean here. So you can see just immediately I'm able to move things around. I've got an issue with the CSS is not set for that height in there yet. But I can move these things around, and I can make them different sizes. So I'm going to make my logo very small here, and I'm going to give my menu a little more space. I don't need much space for those social icons, and then my branding is going to be that much. And you'll see I can put all those up there. So it makes it very fast for you to spin up little areas in here. Now, these here are particles. These are the built-in particles that came with Helium. Some of the others, if you download from Rocket Themes, have different particles in there. And then there are also other particles out there available for you to install in here if you need more particles. But these particles are very handy because just like that logo, once I set the logo, so you see down here, once I set up in my particle defaults my logo, and by the way, it supports SVG logos, which is always nice, gets you that perfect crystal clear logo, right? So you can pop in your logo here, or you could use an image. You can make, if you want a special URL for it to go to, you've got classes you can assign to it. You can put your text if they don't have visual. And so all of, now anytime I want to use my logo, I just simply come in here and I drag and drop my particle onto, so I've got a logo down at the bottom, I've got a logo up the top. But I only had to do one particle, right? And I just drop that little particle everywhere I want it. But, again, the beauty of these overlays, let's say for instance, I'm inheriting from my base outline right now. But for whatever reason, the client says, you know, on that home, could we have that footer down there a different color? And they want it, you know, white, but we have a white logo on it. Okay, yeah, sure, we can do that. So what we would do is we would disinherit this, right? I could clone it originally. I could clone it so that I'm actually pulling all these over so that they're there. But you see how now I can select them. So now they're individual. Right now, if I were to go back to my base outline and move logo off a footer, on the home, the logo is still going to be here because this makes sense. And so now I can go here, and this is where I could go, well, no, we're not going to use this logo. We're going to use a different one, and I can, you know, we're going to put this logo down there on the home page. So I refresh that, and you'll see, go back to, there we go. Non-home particles. I guess so. Boy, I don't know why my cache is. Oh, you know what? Here's the other thing that I should have pointed out. When you are building, like we're in our build mode here, right? You can actually go up here into Gantry and you can turn on development load. And what that means is it should not cache anymore. Hopefully. Hopefully. Okay, and I don't know why. And I'm going to move on here in just a second, and I'll figure out why this is not working, but make sure. Yep, yep. Well, maybe it hadn't cleared this one out. Okay, we're going to figure that one out in just a minute. Let's continue so that I get to go through all the tabs with you, and then we'll come back to that one. And we'll also go, once we update our WordPress, we'll see if it works better in here, but anyway. The next tab here. So that's our layout tab, and by the way, I was just showing you those particles, but you can also, you'll see up here in the upper left, you can drop a module instance. So let's say I have a module already set up. You do need to have the ID number of it. So let's say you had a little custom module set up that you're using on the home page, on the somewhere else. You can literally just drop in a module instance, and in here you set which module you want. So you can go in here and go, well, hey, I want, this login form is what I'm going to drop in. And so I just dropped an instance of a particular module, okay? Let's say and so it takes it off. One of the other things that they did that was very nice is they added undos and redos in here. So that way if you're doing things and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, you can go back several steps. I don't know how many they save exactly, but you can go back many steps. If I wanted to put a module in, we had to go over there and we had to put a little module position in there, right? Not anymore. This is going to drop a module position. It's going to allow us to name it. I'm going to call this new position top, let's say. I'm going to save that, and now you'll see if we go to modules, whoops, and you'll see that now that is one of my positions, new position top that I just made. So now I have a new position to put that module in. And so when you're picking between a module position or a module instance, it means that position. But then let's say I want it to show up somewhere different down here. I could make a new module position, but then I'd have to copy my module and have one assigned to this position, one assigned to this position, right? But if I do a module instance, I could actually drop one here and drop one here. It's the same module. I didn't have to have a duplicate, which anytime you can avoid duplication. Okay, so now let's run back and make it through the rest of our tabs here. We're good. And let me go back to my base outline one more time here. The other thing that we have, so the particle defaults, I told you those represent those particles that are super cool. And what page settings allow us to do is they allow us, you get things, a tracking code from Google, or you get some JavaScript because you're connecting over to something else. You have these things that need to go into the header section, or they need to go in before the closing body tag, or whatever. Head properties in here. We've got the body, so we can pick, do we want it after or before? Do we want it after open body, or do we want it before closed body? So this is giving us access into the code of our template without us having to open up those code files, okay? And then down here you'll see, this is where atoms are. I told you there's but they're hidden, right? They're not something we visibly see. There's something they're running things like, for instance, the best example here is Google Analytics. I mean, they've got it plugged in. All I have to do is go put my UA code in there. Boom, I'm done, okay? So these are very powerful. That is different for different pages, right? And so in which case you might need to do this, where you have an override for a page because I have a form on this page, and I'm going to do an override so I can have a specific tracking code on that page and not have to have that code on all of my pages, because I may not need it on all those pages. So again, if I had made these changes on my Joomla site, and then I wanted to replicate them, I could go to my WordPress site and I could either just go in here and I could make these changes. Let's say, for instance, the other one, we had changed our font. We didn't, but we can. By the way, the font families are associated with Google Fonts, which is really cool, because then you can go through your Google Fonts or have your client go through the Google Fonts and say, find the one you like, and then you can connect to it. Although, by the way, that can sometimes be dangerous. If you send your client to pick them out, you need them to see where there's this speed. That'll be invariably the one they're like, oh, I love this one that looks like chiseled old English. Can you do the whole site in it? No. So, no, because people will be waiting like they're in Old England for your site to come up. It's like, no, we're not. And so, again, same font. So now I'll match this font. We're going to pretend like we did more than that, because another thing I'll show you here, in particular in Joomla, you know, we can actually get to, okay, it's okay. We can actually get to our template files in Joomla, right? So if we go in here, now I will show you, I haven't put any custom. So when we set up a new site, we will, inside of that custom folder, you can see there's config, right? So they use a flat file system. For all those settings that we just set in there, they're doing flat files in the config folder for us. WordPress config. And now I have those configurations done there without me having to manually go through. Yes, it's cool, isn't it? It is really cool. Like I said, there's some little caveats, and that's why I told you there's the documentation. So if something doesn't work right, go look in there, because they'll tell you, you have to change this folder name if it's this or whatever. But so there's some little things. This is going to be way faster. The other thing I was going to point out is, so everything in that custom one, like images, you'd want to move that over too. If you like uploaded some images to go in backgrounds or logos or whatever, take your image folder over too. Now all those images are there, sized appropriately and everything. The last thing is, we always ask, down here somewhere, I have to scroll up a little bit, but what that is you can override all of the CSS. And we override with SCSS, so it gives us even more flexibility and power, right? We even now have a real, like used to, we just do SCS and then we just do a custom.scss. Have in one big file. So we use mix-ins, right? And so you know how and it includes. So you can use includes where you say, yeah, you just import all your different ones. And that makes it easy, because then we can go like, this is our fabric.scss, and this is the header.scss, and this is footer.scss. But then when I go to edit something, especially if you come up with your own way of doing it, then you know when I go into any site that I've set up for a client and I'm going to change something that's in the utility section, I don't know if y'all noticed in that layout, they were kind of named, those sections. Then folder you can move over, and now you've just moved over all your CSS overrides that you created. Okay, so I will show you, I had the screenshot in there, but I will also pull up my Finder here and show you guys. I have 5 minutes, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking in just a minute so that you guys can ask me any questions that you want to. Okay, I just want to show you these real quickly. Oh good, I still kind of had it open. So you can see there's my WordPress site, right? This one actually has a little bit different, and so if I wanted to move that images folder over, it's gonna, though all of the Gantry themes are set to look in this last, right? It's the override one, but it's going to look in there. So if I put those images in there, they're going to show up. And then here, same thing, and then here is my custom, and there those are. Now you can, inside of Joomla, you can go and create a new folder, a new file, all that kind of stuff in the template where you can look at the files and folders there. And so you can actually create your SCS files in there, but a lot of times we put them in the files, so it just makes it faster for us. So if you get to using it a lot, that'll probably be something you want to do, is structure your own, what I'm going to use, uploaded in there. Okay, so I know this was a little bit probably like drinking from a fire hose, because Gantry is a big, big product, and I'm not really showing you how to use Gantry. I wanted you just to see how. Okay, so now we do have 3 minutes for questions. Any questions? Yes.
About just the basics. You mentioned that CEO that might want to write a blog, so you would do a WordPress inside of Joomla.
Not inside it. I mean,
Oh,
there's,
okay.
I might. It's totally up to you. If you have Easy Blog, they're going to be logging into your Joomla website. They
You
also.
just limit them anyway.
You can, and I
Is-
mean,
is
and
there a
what
benefit to the way you?
the benefit is one, WordPress. For a lot of people, they're already familiar with it. Honestly, I do still think WordPress is the best blog out there. Okay, that's just my opinion. The other thing is you do get that benefit that I was talking about of the links between those. So Google sees there's this WordPress site and it's got a lot of links going to this Joomla site, and this Joomla site's got a lot of links going to this WordPress site. You know, we've had clients that request that because that's what they wanted. You know what I mean? Like they present, we want this blog for our CEO or whatever, but boy, we're really scared we don't even log into all this stuff. What are our alternatives? You know, and so that's why we started coming up with that solution. And that's just one reason why you might do employee portal. And they're like, yeah, but you know, Susie over in wherever had already set up a WordPress site with WooCommerce to sell all of our shirts and whatnot. Okay, but they needed to do other things, so they needed a Joomla site. Well, we can just again, right? And we just make an interface between this. And there's actually a lot of things you can do to do plugins in there. I do another session on tapping into multiple databases with Fabric, and so we could even in the Joomla site we could pull stuff from the WordPress MySQL and display it if we want to. You can actually set up core Joomla blog. You can, but sometimes the client wants other solutions, and there are other solutions. There's creative ways to do anything, right? I mean, we can come up with a ton of solutions there. And then sometimes it may be simply that your client says, it's going to take me a while. It's going to take me a long time, but yes, we can do it. Yeah, yeah. So you see what I mean? Like there's reasons why this could come up for you. So, any other questions? No. All right, cool. Well, let's see. Oh, well, let me see if I'm even online yet. Oh, I was going to get online and fix that WordPress site too. Let's see. I'm not online. Does anybody know what our
Just
guest? Okay.
Sign in,
Okay, cool.
It'll pop it up. In
Whatever.
sections you want.
Okay. All right. Oop. Let me just do at least something. Okay.
There you go.
Perfect. We're in. We're in like Flynn.
Surprisingly, not a horrible connection.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Not. It's not the best though, because that. This is a Gantry website using the exact same theme. This is helium or hydrogen. Hydrogen and helium. Okay. This is same, but you see how I don't know why that one's being slow, but again, same thing. But you see how you can just customize these to look however you want to. But the Bluebird's prettiest, right?
Yeah, it is.
It is. And it uses Fabric, so now it's beautiful. Like once you go on the interior pages, you can have overrides when you need to go widescreen on them, or whether you need to have something that is columns in it. You can do that as well. And you see down at the bottom, we have these two persistent things. Well, that's using it for throughout, or did we change it on the home different? I can't remember. Anyway, so so we are taking these things and inheriting those. So we only have to set them up the one time to pull them through, even if we want to change this interior core, or if we want to change that header area up. Uh-huh. How do you know what they're using? Well, I mean, you can do the old tab. some people get tricky. They change the subfolders, so you can't always tell. You can say, whoops, no, that's not it, okay? The other thing you can do is you can do things like browser plugins. So I have Wappalizer, and Wappalizer always tells me what the technology is behind a website, so I can see what what did I do with my Keynote? There we go. So